And obviously, we're looking at King Gambit there. It resists normal. So obviously, it's going to take lots of super effective damage from that high horsepower, but without that same type attack bonus, I imagine King Gambit will likely survive here. So I want to see that here. But oh, we're getting straight into it, Charlie. Let's go.
Alrighty, so it's Slacking and it's Talonflame hitting the field for Alberto. There's Volcarona and there's Electabuzz coming out for Giovanni. So Electabuzz in prime position to start following me so that the Volcarona can get set up with some Quiver Dances here. But you've got to imagine that for Alberto, it's that Wheezing puffing away in the back, ready to switch in at any time in order to switch off Slacking's truant ability.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's going to be a very, very potent option there. Now, the Volcarona and Electabuzz here both have Protect, so you can potentially just double Protect if you're Giovanni here and see what the Slacking's going to lock into, because you know you're probably going to be slower as soon as the Tailwind kind of goes up on Talonflame's end. And it just gives him a little more information as to what's going to go on next.
Yeah, Talonflame, of course, with that Tailwind move, boosting the speed of the Pokemon on Alberto's side of the field for a few turns, and with priority being at full health, thanks to its Gale Wings ability still intact here. Now, all eyes on this Slacking, attempts to go for a knockoff into the Volcarona there, interestingly. Could have been getting rid of the Eviolite on the Electabuzz, but instead opting to get rid of the Covert Cloak on the Volcarona, which wisely keeps itself safe.
Yeah, I really like that, because the Electabuzz has Terra Ghost on it. So if you lock into a normal move, then Giovanni has just an easy Terra Ghost follow me, and Slacking is doing nothing. Whereas knockoff is useful into either of these slots right now, so I really like that locking Alberto. Keeps it nice and safe, and here comes that Wheezing.
Yeah, fairly telegraphed play here on the turn that Slacking would be taking a little nap thanks to Truant. The neutralizing gas is permeating through the area. Going to be Electabuzz keeping Volcarona safe from this knockoff coming out from Slacking. The Eviolite removed from the Electabuzz is really huge. It makes it so much more softened up and ready to go down at any attack that might go in its way. And that's Volcarona doing a little boogie on the field, getting ready for the disco with that Quiver Dance.
So Volcarona's going to be looking very threatening at the moment. Good thing, though, for Alberto, Flame Body is now turned off, so any knockoffs that go into that slot are not going to risk the burn onto the Slacking this time either. So the Volcarona is definitely starting to be the main thing that gets set up here. And what I like about this Volcarona, it's got Heat Wave and that Terra Blast with the Fairy offense. So there's no one type that resists both Heat Wave and Terra Fairy Blast. So it's a really strong option into just generally any team, rather than, say, having a Fire and Grass type, which Dragon types and Fire types can take easily.
Yeah, that's a really good point, David. Electabuzz is once more going to have the spotlight shone on it, and you can see that with the knockoff having already removed the Eviolite from the Electabuzz, that's a move that does more power if the opposing Pokemon is holding an item. Volcarona feeling safe to get set up once more. Now, what is this Wheezing going to do? How's it going to react here? It's going to be the Taunt into the Electabuzz, thanks to that Follow Me that came out from the Pokemon. So ideally, Alberto would have liked to have got that into the Volcarona to prevent any future setup, but here we are with a +2 Volcarona on the field in quite a few stats.
So now we've got into a point where, like, Slacking and Volcarona actually have very similar speed stats.
Right.
So, like, with +2 on this Volcarona, it should be out. It might not even be outspeeding the Slacking if the Tailwind is up. So there's still a lot of damage that could potentially come out here. But because it's a knockoff and because it's not a huge normal move, it's probably not being threatened with a one-hit KO here. And with all that special defense, Wheezing's probably not offering a lot of damage into it either. So Giovanni's still in a really good position.
Wheezing, having said hello to the Slacking, has gone right to the back once more. The neutralizing gas no longer on the field, abilities back online. Speaking of which, so is this Talonflame. And for Giovanni, the switch in of the King Gambit here. That's obviously going to be taking a knockoff really, really well, resisting it thanks to its dark typing. But from dark to bright, going to be Terastallization coming out onto the Volcarona. It's time for it to channel its love at this Love Disco right now on the field, becoming that Terra Fairy, threatening bid Terra Fairy, Terra Blast, but crucially now resisting knockoff coming out from Slacking as well. And that's going to be the black glasses, so the King Gambit might be able to see a little bit better, but not dishing out quite as much damage. Followed up by this Heat Wave. Big damage into the Slacking and the Talonflame.
And the Tailwind runs out just as Talonflame then suddenly loses its Gale Wings ability there. So Alberto may be hoping to get up Tailwind in this turn. Now cannot without Volcarona going first and getting off a massive Heat Wave. Assuming both targets do connect, this could be just a double KO for Giovanni in this turn. And that can combine with a Swords Dance just to even, just make the most of the free space that it suddenly offers. So Giovanni in such a commanding position going into this turn right now.
Alberto really hoping that this Slacking and Wheezing combination, such an exciting one that has got him so far, can continue to do so. Sucker Punch, though, going to fail into presumably the Talonflame there. He waved just enough to pick up the knockout. So you're right, David. just as the Volcarona goes for those quiver dances, that King Gambit getting into the dancing, boogieing spirit as well. Could have gone for the Swords Dance there, but instead Giovanni deciding, no, just going to prioritize the damage here, because of course the King Gambit threatened by fire-type moves that could have been coming out from the Talonflame, but as it was, of course, the Volcarona just outspeeding easily.
So now we've got the Golden Go as the final reveal here for Alberto in this first game of our set. Of first round 12, or no, 11. Sorry, 11, yeah, 11, oh my goodness. And so, yeah, King Gambit's obviously in a pretty decent position at the moment, up against a Golden Go. Now this Golden Go is actually the choice specs, which you're not seeing too much of, but there's still no super effective moves into this King Gambit, which is such a naturally bulky Pokemon. So Golden Go has to lock into something right now. Make It Rain makes a lot of sense, it's his signature move, and it's probably the main way that this Volcarona needs to be dealt with right now. And to be honest, Giovanni is in such a great position. Alberto, I think, probably needs to rely on those critical hits at this point to get through those massive special defense boosts.
What you can do is aim for a Confuse from Strange Steam onto the King Gambit and hope that it just keeps hitting itself, but unlikely. Golden Go getting into the Loving Spirit as well, going for its own Terra Fairy right now. Volcarona going to protect those sweet, sweet boosts. Just going to be the Make It Rain locked into from this Golden Go, of course, threatening super effective into the now Fairy Volcarona. It's really good damage for not very effective into the King Gambit. It's now lower than half of its health. Was just the Sludge Bomb, in fact, targeting down this Volcarona. Certainly the threat on the field right now. Alberto's seeing what mileage they can get out of this, the final few turns of this first game, but time to also reflect on how to adapt heading into game 2.
So, yeah, a good terror, obviously, for Alberto there. With only Dark-type moves, King Gambit's not doing a whole lot right now unless it starts to set up. So it is definitely this Volcarona that is the main threat at the moment. Sucker Punch, there it is to the Weezing, not doing a whole lot, but let's see how much this Volcarona's going to do.
Yeah, big Heat Wave targeting down, and yes, the oven is switched on. It is Golden Go and Weezing being absolutely cooked right now by this Volcarona. Giovanni claiming this game in the most convincing fashion possible. All 4 Pokemon remaining.
Yeah, like very, very convincing, especially. And where does Alberto go from here, honestly? Like, the Tailwind plus Slacking makes a lot of sense, right? Because you suddenly have all the speed and then all the offense from that Slacking. But yeah, when you have that balanced sort of mode there with the redirection and keeping this Volcarona safe, stalling out that Tailwind to be able to offer up those Heat Waves suddenly and just sweeping the field, there's not a lot you can do at this point. Yeah. So I think I'd really like to see Alberto maybe switch something up just a little bit slightly to threaten this Volcarona a little bit more here. And maybe the dual wing beat coming straight out of the gate, for instance, onto this Volcarona would be something that we'd like to see here as well. Yeah. And obviously our Chaladon has that Stalwart ability, which can get around all the Follow Me from the Electabuzz.
Yeah.
But if a Quiver Dance gets set up, though, is our Chaladon actually doing a lot of damage into it? I don't know.
Well, a lead I was considering there, David, was Alberto going for the Talonflame and the Garchomp, but then you can threaten a big Earthquake, super effective, into the Electabuzz over on Giovanni's side of the field. Your Talonflame takes no damage thanks to being a flying type, as well as threatening with the Tailwind and a dual Wing Beat into the Volcarona, pre-terrestrialization that is. And it seems like, you know, Slacking with the Choice Band, really offensive, fun option, but maybe something that could be better lurking in the back. Or, yeah, it seems like if you're locking into a move, you want to have removed a few pieces over on your opponent's side of the field so that you can decide what the best one is to lock into.
Yeah, 100%. And I think what the issue with Weezing in general, and what seemed to be the case for Alberto here, is it was a little bit useless once it was actually on the field. Like, neutralizing gas is great, obviously, for shutting off the Truant, but then what else was it doing, really? Yeah. It doesn't have a lot of offense unless you've got Choice Specs on it, which this one doesn't. It's Citrus Berry, and it wasn't offering a lot of damage, especially into that Volcarona, and into the King Gambit, which is just so bulky, and a Terra, like Ghost Electabuzz, would take those attacks really well as well. It's just so bulky too. It doesn't have Will-O-Wisp to hit King Gambit either, it's just Taunt. So it is a hard Pokemon to kind of make the most of if you're bringing it here. So I think Alberto needs to make the most of the neutralizing gas if he's going to bring it here. Maybe really get down those Taunts into whatever is the supporting option. Maybe into the Volcarona itself instead to stop the Quiver Dances.
Yeah, as is the case with most supporting Pokemon. It wants to run more than 4 moves, but you are limited to just those 4. And it's going to be a switch up from both trainers now heading into Game 2. It is going to be that Garchomp being led from Alberto alongside the Weezing once more. Volcarona makes a repeat appearance for Giovanni, but this time alongside the Rillaboom.
Yeah, I like this lead from both sides, actually. So Alberto has the option of going for the Terra flying on the Weezing and then go for that Earthquake to get around it. And because the Weezing was led here, no Grassy Surge has been set up from the Rillaboom, which would normally get half the damage of Earthquake. So it's a really nice kind of lead here.
Yeah.
Giovanni has a fake out turn. Like, you can pretty much just fake out Garchomp, which is the main damage dealer at the moment, and then pretty much guarantee a pretty free Quiver Dance from Volcarona, and then it will outspeed Garchomp on the following turn, because the worst Weezing's going to do is maybe Sludge Bomb your Rillaboom, but your Assault Vest, it's not that powerful. So, yeah, I think Giovanni's going to come out on top generally after this turn.
Is going to be Fake Out, shutting down that Garchomp, just as predicted, David. Volcarona, once more, is still in the party mood. It goes for another Quiver Dance here, able to get set up. This Volcarona is exactly what I've got my eye on it in Regulations at H so far. The Sludge Bomb doing really respectable damage, to be honest, into that Assault Vest Weezing. Even though holding the Citrus Berry, perhaps trained a little bit more offensively, bring it down to about half HP.
So yeah, there's the Terra Fairy Terra Blast that is just so powerful in this metagame where there's so many Dragon types at the moment. So yeah, you could just kind of Terra into that and just target into the Garchomp slot, and you're not really worried about this Weezing at the moment. So we would expect maybe Alberto could have to protect, maybe Terra the Garchomp into the ground typing. But if Giovanni gets a little bit tricky and maybe targets a ground type move into that, a grass type move into that slot as well, that would just be a KO in itself as well. But it's not going to be going first, at least with that grassy glide, if the Weezing stays on the field. So I expect maybe more of a defensive play from Alberto this turn.
Well, only time will tell. And now it's time to tell about the Sparkles coming out onto this Volcarona once more, going for its Terra Fairy. It's going to become immune to any Dragon type moves coming out from Garchomp, and it's going to remove it's going to make Dark type moves not very effective as it did in the previous game if there is a knockoff slacking waiting in the back. Garchomp this turn not liking its chances. Terra Blast targeting right down into that slot. It's a good call from Alberto there. But where do you go from here? It's going to be the attempted Grassy Glide into the Garchomp too. Now, is this Weezing going to have enough gas in its literal tank to take care of the Rillaboom? It's instead going to target the Volcarona with that super effective Sludge Bomb. Now it's a part Fairy type. You can see the dividends that Quiver Dance paying, boosting up its special defense.
Decent damage there, but it's now, you can see it's a 3-hit KO. And because of the Covert Cloak on the Volcarona, it can't be poisoned by the Sludge Bomb either. So, like, Giovanni could still safely target into the Garchomp, and with not much downside, and know it's going to survive a Sludge Bomb. Bar a critical hit, obviously. I don't want to speak that into existence. But we can maybe see Rillaboom maybe potentially switch out here or start dealing some damage with that high horsepower into the Weezing. Giovanni, with that Volcarona, looking real strong still in this matchup.
Yeah, certainly is. Going to be the responding Terra coming out from Alberto. It is time for this Garchomp to embrace its humiliation. It is fully grounded right now. There's no longer a Dragon typing on this Pokemon. It's not going to be taking super effective damage from Fairy type moves. Heat Wave, though, targeted into both the Pokemon. So in fact, Garchomp terrestrialized away from a resistance that it had to the Fire type there. So great call by Giovanni, as Weezing does have its lunchbox ready, having that Citrus Berry. Stomping Tantrum now targeted into the Volcarona. How much damage is it going to do? Ooh. It is going to be enough for the knockout here. So the Pokemon that put in such work for Giovanni in Game 1 is now down and out, along with the Terra.
Yeah, really nice play from Alberto there to kind of target straight into that. Even though Giovanni kind of caught the Terra there, he was still able to get that KO. And there's the high horsepower, which actually is enough into the Weezing, which keeps the Rillaboom in turn safe from that Sludge Bomb, which was most likely coming out that turn. And
now all of this meadow is going to be sprouting out on the field thanks to Rillaboom's Grassy Surge, recently switched on by that knocked out Weezing. If it were the slacking lurking in the back for Alberto, then it's just going to have to accept attacking every other turn now. The gas is gone.
It certainly is, exactly. There's no more shutting down of those abilities, and so if there's a slacking in the back, it's going to be locking into a move, and that might be the only move it uses. But it is actually the Archaludon in the back, which is really cool to see, and with that Stalwart ability, you can get around any potential follow-me directors if Electabuzz was lurking in the back at the moment. But with that Grassy Surge being up, it's offering a lot of damage into that, or pressure into that Garchomp if it doesn't protect at all, because you can just target very, very safely into it. And with the Assault Vest, it should be able to take on any of those targets from this Archaludon, which only has special attacking moves. There's no body press here at the moment. It's just electric moves and that Dragon Pulse. So we'll likely see an Electro Shot start boosting that up, but this does free up the King Gambit to start boosting itself up too. I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe a Swords Dance, because Sucker Punch looks very, very strong now going to the rest of Alberto's team.
Well, it's all going to come down to what that final Pokemon is for Alberto, claiming a bit of an advantage on that previous turn. Will it be enough? No switches right now. Garchomp is going to hide under its Seismic Hat there with a Protect. Grassy Glide, of course, threatening down that Pokemon. It will now take super effective damage from that move, having lost its Dragon typing. Dragon Pulse into the Rillaboom. Not going to be enough for the knockout. Presumably a more offensive Archaldon here as well, holding the Power Herb. Kowtow Cleave, not going to give it a stamina boost, of course, because this Pokemon is running the Stalwart ability. Archaldon and Garchomp really thankful for the little bit of recovery here, especially the Archaldon being a bulkier Pokemon.
Now, what does Alberto have in the back, right? Because it's really interesting to see if it would be that Talonflame, for instance, to be able to boost up the speed of the Archaldon, to be able to outspeed absolutely everything and make sure this Garchomp is doing the same.
Okay,
but
here we go.
Giovanni has priority in both of his Pokemon, which could make this really scary. And there's a Golden Go coming in, Charlie.
It's Golden Go, and the Terra's already spent on the Garchomp, so it cannot get rid of its weakness to Kingambit here with its Dark-type moves. Both of them very lovely in the Halloween spirit, though, with Ghost and Dark. Going to be Archaldon going for the Electro Shot, and with the Power Herb, able just for this turn to get this move off in one go, as well as that boost to its special attack into the Kingambit. Is going to do a good amount of damage there, and that could put it in range of an attack later on, but Kowtow Cleave just going to be enough for the knockout onto the Golden Go. So Alberto back against the wall now. It's just the double dragons on the field, Garchomp and the Archaldon.
Yeah, a nice safe play there, obviously, from Giovanni, because the Garchomp was just protected, and you can safely target Grassy Glide into that slot to KO the Garchomp if it stays in. If it doesn't, then whatever comes to the back is going to take a Kowtow Cleave. And luckily, it was the Golden Go as well, which obviously just drops immediately to that. Well, Grassy's terrain is starting to run out a little bit here, so Garchomp maybe has a win condition of it protecting enough to try and stall that out, and then get enough health from the grassy terrain to survive a Sucker Punch at this point too, so it looks like Alberto's trying to go for it.
Yeah, it's going to be Garchomp just to try and stall out this Grassy Glide right now, but Kingambit is also going to go for the Protect, stalling out Garchomp's own here, and now the Rillaboom was indeed targeting down that Grassy Glide into the Garchomp. What's Archaldon going to do in this situation? It's already at +1 in its special attack thanks to the earlier Electro Shot. Dragon Pulse now easily enough to take care of this Rillaboom. What's the Pokemon lurking in the back for Giovanni? Is there any way in which Alberto might be able to turn the tables here? Worth reminding you that this Archaldon does indeed have Protect, so can keep itself safe from an Earthquake that could come out from this Garchomp. And it will be the Sneasler. So both the Pokemon on Giovanni's side are weak to that ground move.
And Sneasler is just naturally very speedy, and like with close combat, it should be able to actually KO either of these slots as soon as it targets into it. So again, the Garchomp's just protected. It is just a free slot to target into right now. And with those black glasses, I imagine Sucker Punch is probably easy enough for that Garchomp, and then you just target close combat into that Archaldon. It should pretty much be a lock, unless there's some crazy bulk training that Alberto's done in some of his Pokemon. We'll have to see if he's done it. Let's see, because it's going to be the fight for that top cut if he doesn't get it, or if he does.
Is Alberto going to make top cut with a Wheezing and a Slacking? We're about to find out in the last few moments of our Game 2 Swiss Round 11 here at the little regional championships. Garchomp is going to attempt to double protect. It's a move that gets less likely to work each time you use it, but of course the Sucker Punch therefore is going to fail into the Garchomp here. So a bit of an opening, close combat targeted into the Archaldon. Going to be enough for the knockout here. If this Garchomp has gone for the Earthquake, going to be huge damage, but then of course you've got the Focus Sash on the Sneasler, so you cannot get rid of it in just one turn. Garchomp is gonna have its HP a little bit restored here, but having gone for the double protect on the previous turn, now you're so vulnerable to a Sucker Punch on this coming turn.
Yeah, it's looking like, unless the Sneasler is for some reason super slow, this Garchomp is probably gonna go down. And it's just the Sucker Punch. Giovanni Piscitelli is advancing to top cut.
Congratulations to Giovanni at the Lille Regional Championships.
Amazing to see that absolute win. He's getting there again into